I'd like to welcome all of you from the press to, I'm sure you heard my budget address just a few days ago, and I think I'd just like to have an opportunity to discuss any questions, any comments that you may have about that. So it'll be that kind of a session today, and not just a readout from me, but I'm here to first have a discourse and in whatever area, taxes, whether the government is broke or not, whatever. Okay. Thank you.
Sean Rose, JTV News. Thank you, Premier Smith. I take it that we can proceed with questions.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Honorable Premier, in your budget address, you indicated that some $500 has been allocated to BVI Airways already, and you went on to point out in your address that the BVI Airport Authority, actually BVI Airways, owes BVI Airport Authority some $112,403.40. Is this figure still outstanding? Because there seems to be some conflicting reports with regards to this sum.
Okay, thank you, Sean. First of all, it was not in the budget address. It was during the question time in the House, the session before.
Thank you. My apologies.
Secondly, the figure was not $500. It was $500,000. That was advanced to BVI as part of the agreement. BVI Airways as part of the agreement. Thirdly, the answer to the question that I received was that the matter was in court, right? But it was subsequently, the matter indeed was in court, but it has been satisfactorily resolved. So there's no legal action that's pending at the moment.
Thank you, Premier, and I appreciate the clarification as well. Could you indicate the category under which that particular sum of money was owed to BVI Airports Authority, though? Was it for landing fees? What particular service?
I can't give you the details of that. I think the Airport Authority will be able to help you with the details. Yeah.
Would you be able to give us any details on the any outstanding fees owed to BVI Airports Authority, apart from that particular?
Nothing else that I know about. No.
Good afternoon, Premier Zan Lewis, ZBVI Radio. So are you saying, sir, that the BVI Airport or BVI Airways at this time does not owe the Airport Authority any money at this time?
What I'm saying is that there was a court case which was in 2014, but that after the court case, the matter was satisfactorily resolved.
So no money is owing. That's what you're saying?
I'm just saying what has been reported by the Airports Authority, that the matter has been satisfactorily resolved.
So at this time, you're not in a position to say if any money is owing or not. You're not in any position to say.
No. What was owed, what was definitely owed was I think around about $70,000, which they paid, right? There was some, I think, question of other fees, but that's what it was all about. That's what the court case was about. But that has been satisfactorily resolved.
In your budget address, sir, you made mention about some additional taxes that will be introduced on the people of the Virgin Islands. You spoke about the work permits, a different structure will be put in place. You also spoke about the water rates and other initiatives, but you did not explain how this will be instituted, when it will be done. At this point, sir, could you say more about these initiatives as regards the work permits, the water, and other initiatives you spoke about?
I'll speak to some of them, yes. As you know, Zan, in any country, part of the way the government raises money is through taxes, right? And that is in any country. And one of the things that we have to do here is to look at how we collect taxes. You know, there's a lot of back taxes that people haven't paid up on it yet, and we're going to put in place better methods of collection, which will help greatly with making sure that those are collected by the Treasury. We spoke about the work permits. In all countries, there are work permits, right? And here in the BVI, the highest value for work permit is like $1,000. And it depends on what you do, level of employment, level of remuneration. We're going to review that, right? But review it in such a way that those who earn more money, will pay more. Those who earn at a lower income bracket, though they will not be hardly affected. If you compare what we do with some other territories in the region, in overseas territories, for example, some of them go as high as $7,000 up to $13,000 for work permits in certain categories. So, and when you compare that with what we do at $1,000 as a maximum, you see there's a vast difference. And so there's an area for changes in that regard. When you come, one area I'll mention here before you go on is a matter of charging people on the insurance and freight as well as the cost of the goods. Now this is, we had introduced several years ago, because this is what I was paid before until, when did we introduce that? About in 2011, I can't remember the date. We wanted to give the businesses a little bit of a push, and so we decided to reduce the payment on the cost and insurance and just pay on the cost of goods, and freight insurance and just pay on the cost of the goods. So that went on for quite a few years. We thought it was helpful to the businesses, though some people may have had different ideas, but we thought it was now time to reverse that. And so we're now getting back to the position where we were charging for cost, cost, insurance, and freight, and which would let us, get back that money that we were losing from that particular revenue stream.
And the water?
What we're actually doing with the water, we're not actually talking about increasing water rates at this point. What we're talking about is reviewing the way we pay for water, the way we produce the water, so it becomes less expensive for us, and so therefore we'll be able to receive savings from that point of view.
Premier, the government is hoping to raise some $26 million from these additional taxes. You spoke about reviewing the cost where people pay $1,000. Reviewing with the intention to increase, and in terms of, you spoke about the people in the lower bracket. Where are you talking about when it's the lower bracket? How far below the 1,000 you're talking about?
You're getting into the weeds now. But the reality is people in the high income bracket will pay more. And this is something that will happen. We've been looking at this, the details have been worked out. But so I can't tell you whether you're going to start at $500 or $1,000 at this point. But there will be a graduated scale according to the salary of persons. And as I indicated, persons in the lower brackets will not be affected.
Good afternoon, Premier. Ken Silva with the BVI Beacon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you mentioned in your budget speech that a company has been selected to conduct the cruise beer audit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What is the company and when will it be conducted?
The reason why I have not given the name of the company is because they're just about starting and we're completing the negotiation with them. Once that is complete, I will be able to name the company.
Okay.
And as I said in my address, I will be making the report public.
Great, great. Another question along those lines. When exactly did you know about the Pier Park land side and marine side, for that fact, cost overruns? Because it's been brought to light by Minister Vanderpool and the project manager, Dion Stout, that revised estimates were received in 2014. However, as Andrew Foy pointed out last Thursday, in March 2015, you gave the estimate of the land side of 21.5 million. So that was obviously an incorrect estimate at the time. Were you aware of that? Or?
That was the working estimate at that time. What I understand is that the reviews are done by
BCQS, maybe?
BCQS, which show the different value for the properties that are being constructed, hence the increase in cost.
Okay, sorry, but I don't believe that's correct because Mr. Stout and Minister Vanderpool both said that BCQS provided revised estimates in 2014, and the numbers you gave out in 2015 were based on the old estimates. So I have to ask again, when were you made aware of the revised estimates?
Yeah, I was made aware when I was informed by the minister responsible for the subject.
Do you have a timeline
I
for
can't
that?
tell you a timeline then.
Okay.
But obviously, when I gave that answer, it was based on the original schedule of fees of the whole, on the schedule of the works that was done before BCQS, before I knew that BCQS had given a different set of fees.
Okay, and sorry, just to press you a little bit further on that. In a March 2015 House of Assembly sitting, Julian Fraser said that in a previous sitting you had given him a written answer that the landside development cost $29 million. Then in the March sitting you said, no, I never said that, it's actually $21 million. Now that it turns out that the $29 million figure was actually, closer to what it ended up costing, do you stand by the fact that you said you never gave the $29 million figure to Mr. Fraser?
Well, I can't comment on that because I don't have that statement before me. I just have your word. But as I said earlier, the original estimates were the ones that everybody was working on, right? And when the later estimates came in, of course, the construction of buildings were done, and it was demonstrated that the original estimates were not correct, right? And so the estimates by BCQS are the ones which are more closely aligned to the actual cost of the building.
Okay, thanks.
Malika McPherson, the Allenton newspaper. Premier, just to revisit the comment you made on the reversing decision the government made to go back and look at that import duty, the break that you gave. If I do remember, when government made that decision, it was to assist persons who were crying out at the time, and you said that your government felt that if you relaxed the import duties, business would be able to pass that on to consumers and reflect savings. Before the decision, I don't know if the decision has been made or if it's something coming, did government do any analysis to see how helpful that break was? And going back to the fact of the decision being implemented in the first place to assist, what other buffer do you think your government can implement, especially since persons are crying out that they can no longer shop in the USVIS before because of the implementation of the addition of the departure tax and other reasons, and the cost now going back, since there is no buffer in terms of the break, and the merchants will actually put up their price to reflect?
When we made the decision, it was largely because representations were made from merchants who were saying that they could not really adequately compete with St. Thomas prices and Puerto Rico prices because of the cost of freight. That was one of the major reasons why that was done. And of course, this would affect the prices in the stores, and people would complain. And so the idea was to assist from that point of view. In fact, it was represented to me by the merchants that by removing the duty on freight would help them significantly. So we sort of complied with the suggestion by the merchants. And it was, as I said, for a time, it was not meant to be indefinite. It was for a time to give that lift to businesses at that time. Since that time, we've been making a lot of investments in the country in terms of building infrastructure, and of course the pier park, the paid cruise pier, the works down on the roads. All this be meant to boost and build the economy. So there are several ways in helping people. One way is give and break the other, and the other way is to try to improve and increase the economy so there'd be more commerce, and hence more business for the persons involved in business, and hence more savings. if you look at some of the businesses have actually taken the decision to go low on prices and high on volume. Again, this will help the local people who want to have, savings as well.
So just to follow up, Premier, is there any concern, or I should put it directly, in making this decision, the tax increase that you alluded to, although you didn't specify exactly how that's going to come into place, the fees that are going to increase, we have NHI deduction, and now, of course, there's going to be an increase in goods since this is going to be rescinded, the decision with the import duty. Are you concerned on how this is going to affect cost of living in general?
If you listen to when I responded to Mr. Zan a few minutes ago, you notice that I spoke about water rates, for example. The water rates will not change, but we're going to improve the efficiency of water production, so we get more savings from that. I spoke about work permit fees, and work permit fees applicably mainly, which will affect mainly the higher income earning persons. And I showed you how it compared to other countries in the Caribbean, where our maximum fee is $1,000, when in some cases the maximum fee is either $7,000 or $13,000, which demonstrates that there's some ways that we can do to increase that. I also spoke about better collection of taxes. And this is not about increasing taxes here. This is about, improving collection. So most of the things that I'm speaking about will have not any great effect, and it's about mainly fees, will not have any great effect on the citizens of the BVI.
Good afternoon, Honorable Premier. Earl from FINA. We had a budget presentation by you on Monday, but I don't think you specified how much money going to the various sectors of the economy, the various ministries, and maybe various districts. When will we have a breakdown of who gets what in the budget?
Yeah, that will happen during the next week or 2 weeks. There will be the ongoing discussions, and there will be some changes as a result of those discussions. That is what the Standing Finance Committee is about, to see where some changes will be made or not. And at the end of that process, then we'll have a complete budget, which will be published, and everybody then will know what the various sectors will have.
And just to follow up on that particular question, would the total at the end of that committee process, would it reflect what you announced, or is it likely to be lower than that?
What we announced is an estimate, and everything is called the estimates, and so it is possible that it may be low, because as we continue the discussion among the members, among what the members of the government represents and the needs for the particular departments, we'll be able to make critical decisions going forward.
Okay, 2 other quick questions. How much money, we know you announced that the Pier Park will be opening on the 16th. How much money has been allocated for that opening ceremony? We heard during the question and answer period that your good self has approved, the sums for a vehicle. Cadillac, I believe, was the name given. What would you say to critics who say, well, look, it's not prudent to purchase such a vehicle at this time when schools can't get toilet supplies and paper and pens and stuff like that?
What was the first question again? I can answer it.
The first one had to do with how much is spent on
the first part of the question.
What is being spent on, or what is allocated for the opening ceremony on the 16th?
Okay, that I cannot tell you. You'll have to speak with the minister. He's totally in charge of that. And so, because his ministry has been allocated a certain sums of money for the entire year, and he spends it according to the needs and the demands in the ministry. And so he'll be able to account for that. I'm sure we'll be informed later.
As Minister of Finance, do you have any sort of suggestion or report that the fireworks will cost a great deal, or do you know how much the fireworks would be?
There won't be any fireworks.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. So in terms of the
In terms
Cadillac,
of the vehicle. In 2006, when we came into office the first time, we bought a vehicle. It's actually an Escalade. And that's about how many years ago? 9 years ago. The cost of the vehicle was about $70,000. And the cost of other vehicles at the time, and just about 2 or 3 years after that, when the government changed, the other government also bought vehicles for the then chief minister, then premier, at a cost of $70,000+. And the other ministers of government also had vehicles at the time, in 2007. So it was not just the premier, but it was also the minister of government who also had vehicles, all of them costing in that region. Now that was about 8 years ago. Then after the left government, when we got into office, I decided that I would continue to use the vehicle that the premier had bought, because in the interest of savings. And I did that for the entire term. And then when there was a new set of elections, then we decided, it was decided that a new vehicle should be bought for the premier. The cost of this vehicle is about $90,000. And when you compare the cost of the vehicle in 8 years ago at $70,000, $75,000, you realize that the cost is really, it's really okay. And if you consider the cost of vehicles in that mid-range now, for example, the cost of the vehicle that the government bought for the governor 4 years ago was valued at about $110,000. My ministers, the vehicle they drive costs around about $100,000. And if you speak to the car dealers, you see that that is the kind of value of those mid-range vehicles. So what I'm saying is that, we of course were being prudent. We did not, deliberately did not purchase a vehicle after we got elected the first time. We allowed the whole term to run out. And also subsequent to that, my ministers government has not purchased vehicles for the ministers. They drive their own vehicles. So it's interesting that what as far as I'm concerned, a non-issue has become an issue. And everybody knows me. I live a simple life. I live in a mother's house. I drive my own car on the weekends at nights. I don't have any high level of security. I don't have outriders like they do in other Caribbean countries. So it sort of it makes me question, why did this matter come up just when I'm delivering a budget address, talking about prudence and how we can move the country forward?
Honorable Premier, in your budget address, you indicated that you're likely, the National Democratic Party administration is likely to introduce more strict tax collection methods. Can you speak to what changes, what difference can we see in collecting taxes? What is government going to do different?
Well, the person in charge of the collection of taxes is the Commissioner of Inland Revenue. And she has to have the machinery, she has to have the personnel who are properly trained in order to be able to do this collection. And this is what we are actually looking at. In addition, what we will do is, and we've done in the past, we will be given at some point an amnesty to people to say, you have until this time to come and pay your fees, and then you wouldn't have to pay the charges. So there will be several things we'll be doing to aid the collection, as well as to encourage persons to come and pay the taxes.
While you're on that, Premier, do you have an idea of the, let us say, an estimated figure for outstanding taxes annually?
I can't give you that figure. I wouldn't want to give you a figure that is wrong. See what happens and get wrong information.
But even though you may not want to give me wrong information, are you aware of...
There is a significant sum that is
in the
outstanding,
millions.
yes.
It's in the millions, you would say.
Absolutely, yes.
And how is this outstanding unpaid taxes in the millions affecting the overall functioning of governance? How would you say that is affecting governance?
Well, it certainly would improve the ability to do more than we have been doing in terms of provision of more educational facilities, playgrounds, doing the really work that needs to be done. So.
But Premier, in some cases, it may just very well be, and I'm not saying that is the case, that some people just can't pay.
That is true. But, if somebody cannot pay at a particular time, then what they should do is, come in and have a discussion with the Commissioner of Inland Revenue. We're all reasonable people here.
Premier, in relation to the question asked by my colleague, as regards the opening of the cruise pier, will I be correct to say, sir, in light of not having fireworks, that they do not support anything that is elaborate?
Well, that's what we're looking at prudence as we go forward.
And also, you made mention the challenges the territory is facing and how you hope to collect $26 million. Does government intend to introduce any cost-cutting measures across the board? Civil servants, will any be released? Any will be released early to assist to deal with the challenges ahead?
I will say that we are looking actively on what cost-cutting measures can be put in place. I won't be able to tell you at this point what these measures will be, but certainly those are things that we are going to be looking at as well.
This is an area you're looking at, civil servants, and sending home some early?
No.
Not looking at that?
No, we're not going to do that. No.
And also, sir, in relation to persons have been, I believe you're aware, I believe so, that there have been a lot of criticisms at this point leveled against government, also with the budget delivery makes it worse, the NHI, the cost of living, the taxes. Would you say, sir, that the public, to an extent, is transparency, proper governance? Would you say at this point, sir, that the public is losing confidence in your administration? If so, is it a concern for you based on the criticisms you're hearing?
I hear criticism from a few sources. That doesn't tell me that the public is losing confidence. I won't name the sources. That doesn't tell me that the public is losing confidence. In fact, when I go around the country, I get congratulations from the people, the folk, about what government is doing. The building, for example, of the cruise pier has resulted in a major boost to the income in certain parts of the community. And they've spoken to me. They're very happy. They keep on doing what you're doing. Right? Other areas that we've been involved in, for example, one of the things we're focusing on is building small and medium-sized enterprises in the territory. Government has put considerable amount of money into that. And these people are able to get loans to be able to start businesses. We have this business of the month that we support, where the business of the month gets support in terms of advertisements and whatever. And that has been very successful in promotion of businesses. As a result of what we've been doing, other people in the community are also, getting involved in helping to promote business. You may have heard about the kidpreneurs that Mrs. Harrigan's, which is absolutely a great idea. And other people are doing the same thing. So what I'm saying is that the community is responding to the efforts of government, and this is good because government clearly cannot do this all by itself. And so I'm happy that the community is responding, and I think with working together with the community, we will be okay.
I agree, sir, as what you outlined and also what other ministers of government would have said about the cruise pier development, what it will bring to the Virgin Islands. But isn't it a concern to you, sir, because most of the criticisms are focused in that area, the port, the what they call the variations, the excess spending, right? Isn't this a concern for you, despite what the cruise ship is going to do to the territory, saying that no proper explanation has been given?
Well, you would have heard me say and repeated a few minutes ago that I have ordered an audit, and this will be done. And whoever else wants to audit, that's fine with me. If the chief auditor wants to know, of course, that will be done. So there's nothing to hide. And as you heard early on as well, there's a difference in the estimates when it was first begun to the estimates which are carried out by BCQS, which is a firm which is established in the BVI for a long time and in other parts of the Caribbean, and are very well recognized for what they do. Right? So I cannot say then that what the higher estimate that they have provided, that they're incorrect.
Good afternoon again, sir. Has a business case been completed for the airport project?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. When was that completed?
That is a matter it's been worked on over the past 6 months or so,
Okay.
and it's something that's been dealt with by the Minister of Natural Resources, who is responsible for airports. Yeah.
Sorry, do you know when the business case was actually completed, though? The actual cost-benefit
No, I
analysis?
can't give you a date on that.
Okay.
No,
Will it be
sorry.
made public?
That I haven't asked the question, but I'm sure it will be at some point. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know what firm conducted that study?
That information is that detail I don't have with me.
Okay. One other question regarding the airplanes, I guess. The BVI Airways contract, there are a number of references to abatements in terms of fees that would be paid by BVI Airways. When you Google abate, it either means discount or getting rid of the fees altogether. So what does abate mean for the purposes of that contract?
Abate means, I think what you understand it to mean.
Discount or waiving the fees altogether? Because I guess there's two different definitions. and we're just trying-
It could be either.
Okay.
Right?
All right, thanks.
Honorable Premier, and
my
I'm
last
getting the
question,
signals that
yeah.
we're about to wrap up, but will there be other taxes and fees to be revised going forward that you didn't mention in the budget address?
We, as I said, as we go on during this budget process, there will be discussions, and any new idea that comes up will be taken into consideration, any old ideas, right? And at the end of the time, we'll have but one thing for sure, we won't be putting any unnecessary burden on the people of the territory.
Could you give us a timeline as to when we can expect some of these new?
I think the process, the Standing Finance Committee process, should go on for maybe 2 weeks, but it may be longer. I can't really give you a time. So this is my last question now.
One
Good.
final question, Premier. During the swearing-in, you mentioned a pension plan. Can you give an update on that, please?
I mentioned
The National Pension Plan.
Oh, that is something which I am looking at, because I see the need for a national pension plan so that people who work particularly in the construction industry, in the tourism industry, and when they come to retirement ages, sometimes significant problems. And so I have started looking at how we can do something to help everybody in this territory so that when they come to retire, it would not be that difficult. It's not something that we put on the table as yet, but something that I'm looking at.
And one last question, Honorable Premier. I think the Caribbean Development Bank did a study of the ports project some time ago, but I don't think the report has been released to the public. Could you say when that report will be forthcoming?
The Caribbean Development Bank, to my knowledge, did not do a study of the ports project. They were not involved in the ports project. They came to do some other work for me, but not on the ports project specifically. Okay, I want to thank you all very much.